Do you have a few maybe tips for fundraising at their earlier pre-seed seed stage?
Tips for fundraising. Actually, at the pre-seed, Mike hates it when I say this, but I think the biggest tip at the pre-seed stage is to decide whether you really want to fundraise at all. And I think that, especially in today's world where you can build so much for so little, it's really changed the dynamic. And I think it's really great for founders and really healthy. But the reason I say that is because once you do raise capital, whether it's, from friends and family or from an institutional fund or whoever, the whole game changes really dramatically, and the necessary outcomes change dramatically. So that's the first tip I would say, is like, think about it long and hard. And in my business that I built as an operator, we ended up raising just a single round of capital, $3 million, and that was all we needed to get the business growing and scaling. And I think that was an advantage for us. So I would say that's the first thing I would say, is be careful what you wish for, because the worst thing is not that you can't raise money. The worst thing is that you raise money for the wrong business or at the wrong time, because then you are stuck. Like, that's where you're spending the next decade of your life. And, come hell or high water, you got to make it work. So that's the first advice. And I know that I don't want to be discouraging, but that's the first advice I always give. And then in terms of, the process, there's probably a ton of like content out there that can help out. But I think what we see in general is that things move really, really quickly when there's traction. You always want to be, raising from a position of strength. And so if you can show that you've got momentum, you can show that you're, even at a small scale, you can see the kernels of something that's going to get liquidity and work, getting that momentum, getting that first true believer committed, then everything goes really quickly. So, there's all kinds of like tips out there in terms of how you run a process, what the right dynamic is, but I won't spend too much time on that, because I think that most people know. Maybe in the future it's going to be all AI agents that are out there doing this work. Actually, there's a company that's now sending me, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I get pitches all the time through this agent that says, I talked to these 4 companies and here's one that you might like. And I've actually responded to a couple, which was a huge mistake, because now I get inundated. So I would maybe stay away from those. I would go for the personal connections instead of like the AI agents. But in general, I don't have any real additional words of wisdom beyond like just getting the traction is going to cure anything else in fundraising.